What is up, everybody? Welcome to Shoot the Gap, the IDP the IDP Fantasy Football Podcast here at fantasyandframes.com. Tonight, we're going to be talking about IDP Dynasty in terms of NFL free agents on the defensive side of the ball and who we like, both from the under 30 crowd and the over 30 crowd, and telling you what our thoughts are as far as team locations. And not so much the NFL team locations, but like locations on your dynasty roster, like whether or not if you're a contending team, X player would be great there. If you're in a rebuild team, X player would be, Y player would be there. So very excited to talk to you about that tonight. And tonight we have a amazing friend of the show, somebody that when I first got into the IDP space. Sorry, folks, I'm just coming back from Dynasty 365, so I'm still in Dynasty mode on offense. But as far as here on Shoot the Gap,
offense,
offense. What is that? Is that offensive to somebody? Anyhow, somebody I looked up to a lot in the IDP space and has been a great friend since meeting him, and we're really happy to have him back on the show from the IDP show, Mr. Mike Woellert. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. It's always good to talk instead of type. So, it's good to be on.
Nice. So for those who you should be following Mike_Woellert. You also have started this year a Substack. Is that correct? As far as the content that you're putting out there?
Yeah, I actually did start it last year, but yeah, now still going on.
Nice.
So been doing a lot of rookie stuff. Obviously, or probably since January, I started kind of doing all my, I guess you could say, evaluations, my amateur-ish, total amateur eye evaluations. So, yeah, I've been evaluating all the rookies, the linebackers, defensive linemen, safety, and defensive backs, doing rookie profiles. Probably going to start doing some rookie rankings here, like pre-draft shortly. And then just started doing some reevaluations because of the combines. Like, all right, well, what did I miss? So I kind of did another look at Arvell Reese. Who else did I look back at? I did another dive into David Bailey and just trying to get everything covered for the draft. But yeah, all my evaluations and profiles are up on my Substack.
So as somebody who's a member of your Substack and gets the emails daily as far as just the latest content that you're putting out there, you said amateurish evaluations.
No, I do not claim. No, it's amateur.
I am going to disagree with you there because I'm reading these and I'm like, this is thorough AF. So being modest, you be modest. I'll tell it like it is. Fantastic content over at Mike Woellert's Substack. So reach out to him and he'll get you all hooked up and get you signed up there. Just fantastic content here, Mike. So before we dive into, though, our IDP free agents from a dynasty perspective, let's get into a little bit of news and notes, shall we? All right, so let's start in reverse order. Although I don't know which time of day this one came out first, so let's go with the old popular linebacker talk. Bobby Okereke, released by the New York Giants, their team defensive captain. Peace out.
Mm-hmm.
One, what do you think about that? Two, is this the writing on the wall that, hey, Sonny Styles, you're coming to be a New York Giant?
Well, I guess is he gonna make it to the Giants with the way people are talking about him and just the way that he freaking dominated the combine? Is he even gonna make it to the Giants? But yeah, I mean, the writing, I guess, was on the wall. I mean, played over 1,100 snaps last year, but if you look at his, I mean, I know PFF grades can be subjective, but they weren't all that great. I think he battled a back injury at the end of 24 that might have come into play in 25, but it's you're releasing your green dot guy, and there's really nobody there now to even target, because I think Micah McFadden is also a free agent. So I think we just got a question. I did some one question per team, and someone asked about Bobby Okereke and who do you target? I'm like, I'm not targeting anybody until free agency and the draft is over.
Right.
I have no interest in Darius Muasau or Zaire Barnes or Demetrius Flanagan Foles or any of those guys right now.
DFF, come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm waiting for free agency and the draft to play itself out. But Sonny Styles would be a good fit, obviously. But we'll see what happens.
No, absolutely. Going to the next piece of news, and again, I don't remember which one came out first, but I believe they came out the same day. Talk out of Minnesota that Jonathan Grenard, that one of their edge rushers there, could be a cut candidate to start off the new year just in time for free agency. I have thoughts about this. 2 seasons ago, Mike, was on the verge as I was getting this jersey wall behind me all set up, and I was getting all these jerseys over at NFLshop.com. And I saw Danielle Hunter's Vikings jersey, purple. I was like, I want to get this. And then all the talk of like, well, he may not be on the Vikings. There's talk that he is a trade candidate. And that scared me off. That scared me off big time. And then the trade happened with the Houston Texans, and basically Hunter goes to Houston to pair up with Will Anderson, and Jonathan Grenard goes to Minnesota. Now, if we're looking in that year leading up to that, Grenard had like a fairly decent year in Houston, and everybody thought, well, he's going to carry over that success. That is a value pick right there. But now he's a cut candidate, and now you have to start thinking to yourself, well, was the writing on the wall to begin with when they drafted Dallas Turner a couple seasons ago? And for all intents and purposes, I thought Turner was going to be the Van Ginkel replacement, but then Van Ginkel got all that money last year, and it's like, well, who's the odd man out? It has to be Grenard, and now we're hearing that he's going to get cut. Your thoughts on Grenard getting cut here, as well as what the upside could be for Dallas Turner?
Grenard is certainly a case of life comes at you fast. 2024, he had 84 total quarterback pressures, and I think he had double-digit sacks, and he and Van Ginkel were a solid duo, and obviously they brought in Turner. So I think Turner's season last year maybe made him expendable, but I don't know. Or is it there's such thing as having too many edge rushers? I mean, it's almost like pitching in baseball. When you think you have too much pitching in baseball, you add more pitching. But I think maybe with edge rushers, I think it's an impact position. You have you're going after the quarterback, so I think it's an impact position. So, I mean, Dallas Turner had a nice breakout season last year. He really picked up his game after Grenard went down. Big pressure rate, or a little under 16% after Grenard went down. 60 or 6.5 sacks, 67% of the snaps. So, he's only got a 9.9 million dead cap hit. So I don't know what the total savings are, but I think Turner maybe have made him expendable. Turner's still on a rookie. I think he's still on his rookie deal. So
he is, yeah.
Might open up a little bit of savings.
Well, we talk about the defensive line here for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, they just announced today Jonathan Allen, who was a former commander, signs a deal last year with the Vikings. He's a cut candidate. So definitely some shaking up going on there along the defensive line. To your point, as far as can you have too many edge rushers? So for the NFL, no, have as many fresh bodies who can do a lot of, but I don't want a situation where it's the Buffalo Bills part 2, where it's like not one edge rusher is playing more than 60% of snaps because they're rotating their edge rushers in and out to keep them fresh. I do not want that for fantasy football, but for the NFL, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Another bit of news here is that we found out And, you know, I think the writing was on the wall with this a year ago. It just took forever and ever and ever for this to finally happen, which finally, right? Trey Hendrickson, not going to be tagged, not going to be basically re signed here by the Cincinnati Bengals, will enter free agency. You and I haven't talked about this, and I don't know if he's a name you're going to be talking about later, but like, what are your thoughts overall as far as this not happening, them meaning the Bengals not bringing him back, and not so much on what it means for Hendrickson, but what does this do for the rest of the Bengals as far as like having any sense of a pass rush, um, just in general?
Well, he was actually, I might as well just go right into it because I think, he was going to be one of the guys I talk about, especially being an over 30 edge rusher. It doesn't surprise me that Cincinnati let him go, and just because of the way I guess they handle things from a money standpoint. Obviously, with you're letting somebody go that has been ultra productive. I mean, dare I say, almost an elite edge rusher. 57 sacks over his 4 seasons with the Bengals. I mean, even though he had just 7 games last year, still had a 13% pressure rate and had 4 sacks in those 7 games, multiple pressures in all but 1 game. So obviously still has an impact on the pass rush. So that certainly, that is, your, the snaps have opened up, and now you've eliminated almost a Myles Garrett type player, Micah Parsons type player, Max Crosby type player from your roster now. And behind him is
Not a lot.
nobody, very little, because one, Joseph Asai is now a free agent. So
Yep.
maybe that puts a little bit more priority maybe in re-signing Joseph Asai, but now you've got Miles Murphy. I mean, the names aren't great. You got Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, Cam Sample, Isaiah Foskey, and Cedric Johnson. That is not a edge rusher room that is going to instill fear in any offensive coordinator's game plan or keep them up at night. I mean, Murphy, I guess you can say he kind of had a breakout season, 5.5 sacks. They came mostly from week 10 on, but Shamar Stewart didn't have a great rookie year, really starting out with the way he handled his whole offseason program after being drafted.
Yeah.
So, I think edge is probably going to be a focal point, maybe not free agency, but in the draft. But as far as Trey Hendrickson goes, if you are, if he's on your roster, I think he's a hold. I mean, his market is going to be huge. I think he's still worth probably the money that he's going to command. Hopefully he's healthy, but he's still going to draw a lot of money. And I think no matter where he goes, he's probably going to have a relatively high snap rate. One, because of the free agent capital. I mean, you throw 30, 35, 40 million at an edge rusher, he's probably going to be playing, I mean, at minimum 70% of the snaps. And if he's at all what he was in Cincinnati, you're getting a 10, a multiple set, a double-digit sack producer. So depending on his landing spot, and obviously depending on where you are in terms of your roster, if you are a contender, obviously he's a hold. But if you are rebuilding, I think you could still get a decent return. I don't think you're going to get a first round pick for him, but I think you should be able to comfortably ask for a second round pick. You're probably 27 picks are probably going to be what's the word I'm looking for?
It's going to be hard.
2027 picks are going to be tough to come by for him.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at draft picks for this year. So, but if you are contending, I think he's still a hold, and I think he's still, wherever he lands, I think he's up for a productive season. I think.
I 100% agree as far as the value of, if we're talking about, straight up picks for him, as far as expectations, if you're trying to sell Trey Hendrickson, I think it goes without saying that for 2026, the value is on the defensive side of the ball. at edge rusher, linebacker, at safety. I mean, across the board on the defensive side of the ball here for the 26 draft. So obviously, if you're in IDP leagues, you're loving it. You and I, we were loving all the combine talk later in the latter part of the week last week because we were glued to all the reports. And it's because of that, however, the fact that there is so much depth, and we are talking dynasty, like people would rather invest that draft pick or those draft picks in some younger talent to help rebuild for the long haul. So yeah, I agree with that. The second round pick, yeah, I think that's very fair for what you could be getting for Trey Hendrickson. But with that, let's get into the topic for today's show. Again, we're going to be talking about the NFL free agents for 2026 on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to be covering free agents that stand out to me from the under 30 crowd. And then Mike, this is not planned, by the way. I was not trying to be an ageist here. This is just how it happened. You'll be talking about
Sure.
We'll be talking about free agents from the 30 and above crowd. So let's age before beauty. How about that? You like what I did there? Let's talk about an edge rusher here that I am pretty excited about trying to acquire here. And Jalen Phillips, 26 years old, will be 27 this year, played for the Miami Dolphins, and then was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles midseason. You look at overall PFF grade 74, which had him as the edge rusher 36. He had 53 per PFF, 53 total tackles, 14 quarterback hits, which is amazing, 6 TFLs, 4 passes defense, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, only 5 sacks. That's not optimal, considering the fact that he had a 17.7% pressure rate on 73 total pressures. Man, I am flabbergasted that this guy had so many pressures and had such a high pressure rate and only got you 5 sacks. But I feel like every time I turned on a Miami Dolphins game last year, he was like applying pressure. And then as he's getting close to the quarterback, Bradley Chubb's there to take the sack away, or somebody else is there to take the sack away. So he was doing the Lord's work for everybody along the defensive line for Miami, and just somebody else reaped the benefit, which you hate to see. But I kind of attribute this past year in 2025 to kind of like a reacclimating yourself back to full-time play, because let's not forget 2 seasons ago, the day after Thanksgiving against the Jets, tore his Achilles. Last year tore his ACL, or 2 years ago now, I guess, tore his ACL in 24, comes back in 25. A lot of question marks there. He's just a lot of question marks. But you go back to his win rate last year, had 18.8%, which had him as a defensive, as the edge 8 overall last season. So again, he has the upside, he has the efficiency. It's just the productivity was not there. And so from my perspective, I'm like, let me cash in now on somebody who's shown the efficiency and hope that, and expect regression to happen that puts him back in the sack column with more productivity. You go back to 2022, had a 14% pressure rate, 14.6% pressure rate, 9 sacks. You go back to his third year, he was playing fantastic football, great for fantasy football, whether it's, fantasy pro scoring, IDP 123, big play scoring. The guy was at the tops of your fantasy points per game metrics. So, again, had his pressure rate dropped off, and I know I'm hammering home pressure rate, but had it dropped off, Mike, I would be not as high on him. But the fact that it was so high, I'm definitely wanting to target him as an under 30 free agent, especially if I'm in a rebuild. If I'm a contender and I'm able to get Jalen Phillips for cheap, I am jumping for joy, because you just gave me potentially a league-winning edge rusher. But for a rebuild scenario, yeah, I'll definitely invest in him.
Yeah, sometimes, obviously we want the sacks because, that's what gives us fantasy points. But sometimes we overlook some of those metrics because they are somewhat predictable. They kind of tell us, all right, something's coming. I think with the case of Phillips, I think it was just finishing. He just didn't finish. He had a 0.9% sack rate His time to pressure was a little over 3 seconds. So even though he's winning his blocks, it's just the time to pressure. And is that still a product of, has his not necessarily explosion, but his that closing speed, has something been sapped from maybe his closing speed. So that's the, when I see that's kind of what tells me, okay, he's maybe not finishing, or maybe he's getting blocked out of a path, or his arm, those edge rusher geeky terms. So I'll be interested to see what happens. I think what's best for his IDP value, I think, is for him to stay in Philly. I think that's probably what's best, just because Vic Fangio, but I think they did a good job of scheming his pressure and creating his pressure. So plus he's playing alongside some pretty big monsters in the middle with Carter and Davis and Moro Ajomo. So those are some pretty big guys that he's playing alongside. So but no, Phillips has always been a pressure producer. So just a matter of finishing and being able to close.
Absolutely. Let's get to some comments in the chat. Philip, we saw you earlier. What's going on? Welcome to the show. Kyle Ziegler, who was joining me on Dynasty 365 last hour. I got to be honest with you, Kyle. While you do participate in our little Fantasy and Frames IDP offense combo Dynasty League, I was not prepared for you to ask an IDP question. I am actually shocked that you're doing this, and also very proud at the same time. And Kyle has to say, what are your thoughts on Shamar Stewart? Disappointing rookie year, but with Hedgerson and Alba gone, is the arrow pointing up for Stewart? We were talking about this a little bit ago, but let me phrase it like this here, Mike. If he is the veteran edge rusher and they don't address the other side of the ball, are you okay? Are you happy with it where the arrow's pointing? Is it pointing up? Or do you think he's the type of player that he needs somebody on the other side to take pressure away from him?
We don't know.
Yes.
I you know what? I can think about it and try to bullcrap an answer.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, we're trying to, we're trying to look at the athleticism or this combine freak that came out with no college production whatsoever. We're trying to compare him to Danielle Hunter's production when coming out of college, and that's hard to project. It's hard to project, and it's hard to predict. So I have no idea what to expect, whether or not, if they add somebody or not. Obviously, the Bengals need him to take a big leap forward. Yeah, I mean, there's upside, but the production there really wasn't any production from college to the pros. So we shall see. I think like we mentioned earlier, I think the whole contract dispute and his lack of any type of offseason program, I think, contributed. I think he battled even some injuries at the beginning of the season, and the lack of conditioning. So we'll see how seriously he takes everything. So I mean, in Dynasty, you might be able to get him. Someone might just throw him in. I mean, someone just might. Oh, okay, I'm done. I don't want to deal with it. Might just throw him in, but I don't have a good answer what to expect from him. Whether or not they add somebody or not, I don't know what to expect from this guy.
And Kyle, that should tell you all you need to know as far as the level of confidence that everyone else has around this situation right now. So I would not be going out trying to acquire him unless he's thrown into a trade package where it's like, we need some added players on this side of the deal. Just take Shamar Stewart. And we say that, and then, watch like something miraculous happen. And it's like, oh my God, this just fell into our lap. This is the equivalent of them throwing in Wan'Dale Robinson on the offensive side of the ball in a trade package from a few seasons ago. All right. I did an under 30 edge rusher, and I know we're trying to go 2 for 2 for these, but I got to be honest with you, as far as another under 30 edge rusher that I'm like, there's a value here. There is an opportunity potentially for them to land somewhere. I got to be honest with you. Ask me 2 seasons ago, I would have been like Malcolm Kuntz. That was 2 seasons ago. That is not right now. So it is hard for me to really pinpoint somebody that jumps off the board to me. So therefore, let's go to the over 30 crowd here. Let's go to you, Mike. Who do you got as far as some edge rushers or edge rusher that fantasy managers, especially dynasty managers, should be thinking about?
So outside of obviously outside of Trey Hendrickson, I think the other big name is Khalil Mack.
Okay.
So I mean, I can't believe he's already been in this. I can't believe he's already entering his 13th season. I mean, it's just crazy how time flies. And, I was in my feed, the WWE vault from that, my sacrifice from Creed entered in my vault or entered in my timeline.
Yeah.
And I must have watched that thing like 4 or 5 times just before getting on. And just like, where does time go? But yeah, no, Khalil Mack, 12 games in 25, still effective, but I think obviously some of that speed and has been sapped with his age. I mean, still generated consistent pressure. He had a 19.8% win rate, which, is not, that's not elite, but it's a good number. But with the metrics, only 5.5 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say, has he lost a step? Is that closing speed gone? I mean, he's going to be 35. So that's more than a possibility. I'm not treating him as an edge 1, a 2 or 3, and he might be, I think at this point in his career, might be ring chasing. So if he lands in somewhere like Kansas City or Baltimore, I think or even Detroit, I mean, that would be a very interesting landing spot with Detroit if he's going to play alongside Aiden Hutchinson. That would certainly give him a boost. But I think at this point, I'm probably trying to sell Khalil Mack for anything that I can get at this point. You might have his window probably closed. I think you probably, if you were going to think about it, maybe a year or two ago. But I'm probably either way. I'm probably trying to sell on him. I know that's probably blasphemous. But I think either way, whether I'm a contender or even a rebuilder, I think I'm trying to sell. I mean, I think the double-digit sack days are gone, I think.
All right, so taking landing spot or team out of the equation, if you had to pick one veteran edge rusher to have on your dynasty roster because you thought, whether it's during a bye week or thinking that they have one good, stretch left in them, who would you rather have, Khalil Mack or Von Miller? Right? Not as easy as that.
Yeah, I mean, boy, if I have to, maybe I'll just punt the position for the week.
Just leave the roster spot blank, empty.
It's a similar floor.
Yeah. Yes, that's very fair.
But but I think Mac, just because his usage rate would probably be a little bit higher, because I think even Von Miller's usage rate at this point is maybe 20 to 30%. So I think Mac still gets the snaps, but yeah, 35. That's rough.
That is rough. Hopefully let's get to some linebackers now that maybe aren't as rough. And let's start off here with the under 30 crowd. And I quote tweeted this from the article I put over at Fantasy and Frames. And I'm going to read a little bit from that because this player is near and dear to my heart. I'm talking about Nakobe Dean. 2025 January, tore his patellar tendon. Jorge, 2024, fell down some stairs, tore his quad tendon. Likely a potentially career-ending injury for Nakobe Dean. Needless to say, found some parallels. Granted, he tore it doing something freakishly athletic. I tore it because I was a moron walking down the stairs. Needless to say, same type of injury. Both were told, hey, you're never going to potentially regain the mobility that you had prior to the injury. Here's the difference between the two. Clear, stark difference. He's a professional athlete who wanted to continue playing football. And I, much to what you were saying as far as the desire videos from the WWF back in the day, I was watching a lot of Triple H's return to Madison Square Garden back from 2022 when it was the loudest eruption for a professional wrestler. in Madison Square Garden. I was watching that on YouTube every single day as motivation. Needless to say, we both showed people wrong here. But man, you look at, the upside of where he has, you go back to 2024, 2025. He was the LB 13 in tackle rate with 14.2%, had 128 total tackles. He even had a pressure rate of 21% with 3 sacks, 7 TFLs, and 6 quarterback hits. He is somebody that we saw prior to his patellar tendon injury. He and Zach Bond were the tandem, or one of the tandems in the NFL you wanted for your IDP leagues. Give me Zach Bond. Oh, he's doing really well this year. You're going to pay an arm and a leg because recency bias. Okay, can you give me Nakobe Dean for a better value? The answer would be yes. And you thought you were on top of the world, and then the injury happens, and you're just like, will he even play again, let alone play 9 months later? But we saw week 8, after he started playing more than 60% of snaps, you saw him started to return the form. And man, I'm all in. And maybe I'm a little bit biased here because of the parallels I was drawing earlier, but we've seen the production. We've seen the increase in production since the snap percentage went up this past year. So I think he's trending in the right direction. And I think some people out there may be a little bit concerned because they're not looking at they're looking at the whole season and not really looking at trends throughout the season, which I think people get into traps when it comes to that, both on both offense and IDP. But I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on Nakobe Dean in terms of where he, do you care where he lands, or are you just trusting the talent that he has shown so far during his career?
No, for linebackers, I think you need to care. I think you need to care where he lands. I hate to don't want to use this, if he goes to a spot where, they're running dime most of the time, he may not see the field. He may be the one that's off the field.
Right.
If he goes to a team that already has entrenched starters, that could be a problem. So yes, I think landing spot's going to be a key for. I think landing spot will be a key for him. But either way, as long as he gets into a landing spot, I'll be interested in him. It'll be a fully healthy season. He had a pretty high missed. He missed a lot of tackles. His run defense suffered.
Yeah.
But I think the knee injury is going to be behind him. And I think there is going to be separation. So there's talks of him in going to Dallas. I think Dallas would be a good spot. I think Washington for you would be a good spot. So yeah, we've seen his production. He had 128 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 24. So I think there's still something. I definitely think there's still something there. And going back to your Triple H return, thinking back on, now that you said that, which pop do you think was louder, Triple H's return at Madison Square Garden,
okay,
or Chris Jericho's debut, WWF debut?
Ooh.
Because you knew Triple H. The impressive thing about Triple H's return is you knew he was coming back,
right?
And it was still thunderous,
right?
But man, I remember watching that episode. I was just outside on my deck. Me and my buddy I was hanging out with him. He was sharing a smoke, and I was watching through my picture window with the TV.
Yeah.
And you see the
Millennium
the woman, and then Jericho, and you just hear, because obviously that was the day that was still pre-internet. There was still internet, but it wasn't like it is today.
Right.
So total shock to everyone. So those two, I think, are definitely, 1A, 1B when it comes to pops.
I'll raise you another one: Jericho, Triple H's return, or CM Punk's return at Survivor Series a few years ago.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of keeping. I think they did a good job of keeping that one a secret, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but no, that was pretty loud. But but when the Jericho flashes and you just hear that, oh my god,
damn it! I'm about to turn on some WWF highlights.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm gonna have to. Also.
let's speed through this show, shall we?
Yeah.
I gave you an under 30 linebacker. Let's go to Mike. He'll give us an over 30, then back to me, then back to him. So, Mike, who's a linebacker over 30 that you're interested in?
How can you not be how can you not be interested in where Bobby Wagner lands?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
He is an ageless wonder. I mean, I guess you can say you can almost say he's an anti-Khalil Mack. He just keeps producing and keeps producing career highs. Not only tackles, but like a lot of tackles. Yeah. Like, he's not getting like 102, 103. It was last year was his 10th straight 130 plus tackle season. Yeah. And he added 4.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. Still looks a little slower, but still, again, as of right now, I don't see any real signs of slowdown. I think he's a good fit in Dan Quinn's system. I think the Commanders want to bring him back. I'm not sure I'll be interested to see what the demands are, but I don't know. I can't imagine a defense without Wagner, but I think he'll have his market, and he just seems to be a guy, no matter where he goes, he's going to be a 3-down guy, and he's going to be a captain and get slapped with the dot. So I'll be very interested to see where Wagner ends up if he's not back in Washington. But no matter where he lands, if you have Bobby Wagner on your roster right now, I think he's just one of those guys that you ride or die until he retires. I think he's proven to be a capable producer, and I think you just ride him until he retires and ride him into the sunset.
So behind me, I have some offensive players that Gary Davenport called the kiss of death wall, because Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin, all were not living up to expectation. Over here, I got my IDP jerseys. Over here, I got Will Anderson, Crosby, Bobby Wagner right there. Like, the guy is a legend. Do you know that the only time he's ever had a double-digit missed tackle rate was 2015?
Yeah.
And that was only 11%. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, this past season, he had his worst year in terms of coverage grade per PFF. Even that being the case, you tell Bobby Wagner you're coming off on third down. Nobody's going to tell Bobby Wagner he's coming off on third down. So,
no.
100% agree with you. Now, here's the thing. Like, if you're a contender and you go get Bobby Wagner, congratulations. You just solidified your linebacking position. Like you said, you're riding this till the wheels fall off. If you are a rebuilding team and you want to get rid of Bobby Wagner, is the market still high? Can you get a first-round pick for him, or is he, because of the age?
I mean, I guess it all depends on how badly a team wants to win, but I don't think you're getting a first-round pick for Wagner anymore.
Okay.
I don't think anyway. I love Wagner, but I'm not giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah, I got to think the long-term there game in Dynasty. So, good point. All right, let's go back to the under 30 crowd here at linebacker. So, This one may surprise you, Mike. It surprised me in terms of, like, man, he really plays really well. Why isn't he getting more opportunity? Because the past few seasons, he by far, in terms of grading, whether it's coverage, tackling, run defense, you name it, he was like one of the best linebackers on his team. The snaps just weren't there. Mm-hmm. And now he's set to be a free agent. He's going to be 25 this year, or he is 25. He will be 26 this year. I'm talking about Leo Chenal, Kansas City Chiefs. PFF grade 75. That held him as the LB 19. He had 54 tackles for PFF, 5 quarterback hits, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, a couple of pass deflections, and an interception. His tackle rate, 10.2%. Okay, not blowing the world away. His missed tackle rate, 8.2. You'd like to see that. He reminds me of a Caden Ellis, a younger Caden Ellis, somebody who could just apply pressures when need to. He could play in coverage when need to. He can play off ball if he needs to, be a pure dedicated run stopper. And that's the thing. That's what gets me. This is the first time in the past 3 years that all 3 linebackers, Bolton, Tranquil, and Leo Chenal, were all grading comparably in performance from a defensive standpoint. All the other years, it's been Leo Chenal. And all the years, I'm just like, WTF, why is he not seeing the ball more? And I look at this as a situation here for the Kansas City Chiefs that, like, if you let him go, man, you're potentially letting a very young, efficient linebacker go out the door, and you didn't maximize his usage at all.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now you have him potentially going to a team that he could potentially be the LB2, going through the interwebs, going through Twitter/X, a lot of places are linking him to the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals fans are craving Leo Chenal. What are your thoughts? Do you think the lack of snaps here for Chenal over the past few years since he's been with the Kansas City Chiefs is an indictment on him, or it's just one of those, what the hell were they doing? He should have been on the field more.
I'm not going to say I'm certainly not going to say an indictment, but I think it's just a matter of scheme fit and where they were running. Maybe Drew Tranquil had the free agent money, and maybe maybe it was just maybe he was more of a scheme fit, maybe more than Chenal. But I'm with you. I'm trying to acquire Chenal. I think when I wrote up my top 40, I think I slotted him at the number 2 spot. He was the number 2 guy that I talked up. Like you said, kind of productive. He's productive when he was on the field. I think he's a guy that definitely deserves to compete for a full-time or a 3-down role. I think I even said I'd even almost like to maybe see him in Buffalo reuniting with Jim Leonard, because that was his coach in Wisconsin. That'd be let's talk about someone that can utilize his skills and his traits. Someone who coached him while he was in Wisconsin. So no, I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard Chenal. I think I even wrote it. Boy, if I think back, I think I even wrote him up as a rookie back in 22. I think I wrote up something for DLF as I liked him way back when. So I hope he fares better than Willie Gay has since leaving Kansas City. So I think he's a little bit better. I think he's a little bit better of a linebacker. No, I'm all with you on Chenal for sure.
All right, let's get to your second over 30 linebacker free agent here for IDP Dynasty.
So it's pretty amazing that all 3 still active elite linebackers are hitting free agency at the same time from the 2012 draft class. Wagner, DeMario, and Levante.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Levante owner, you are praying that he resigns, because if he doesn't, he's probably retiring.
True.
But I think, and then you got DeMario Davis, who achieved a career high in tackles, which beat his previous career high from the year before in tackles. But it's his solo to assist ratio has been way off. He hasn't hit I don't think he's hit the 80 solo mark since I think 2019. But what's more important, he's out there every snap. I think he's only missed 1 game in his entire career.
That's crazy.
And, for a line, I mean, talk about
like the longevity.
Longevity. Yes. I think his best bet for IDP is to return to New Orleans, but I think Danny Stutzman, I think he's the heir apparent. So I think they like what they have in him, but I think he's another one that's kind of been linked to Cincinnati. I think he might've been linked to Dallas too, but I know they have Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight, but granted they were rookies, but their grades weren't all that great, but boy, he just continues to be on the field and produce.
So I'm glad you brought up Danny Stutzman, because entering last season after he got drafted to the New Orleans Saints, my immediate thought is like, this is the DeMario Davis replacement.
Yeah.
Clear cut, give him a year, if that, maybe 2 years at most. Because what can we really expect from DeMario Davis in this career? And, as you just pointed out, a lot, apparently. I don't know now what the coaching plans are for Pete Werner. Now, the Stutzman become the Werner replacement, because Werner has been kind of trailing off in productivity the past few years. Obviously, they're probably thinking about things from a youth perspective. I think Demario Davis, let me pull up the number right here, this is mind-blowing to me. 37 years old currently, and is still just tearing it up there. Funny story is his year with the New York Jets, his last one, 2017, just went off, right? And it's one of those things where it was one of my first years writing about IDP, and Demario Davis, he's such a badass. He's doing so many awesome things. He had, 125 tackles, 127 tackles, total tackles, the guy for PFF. So the guy is a monster, and is like, well, congratulations. Now he's going to a new team where can he maintain that level of production? Yeah. The guy is
resounding yes.
Yeah. The guy is just amazing. But that being the case, if you're trying to, get rid of him, you're going to run into the Bobby Wagner situation. Like you're not expecting, and because I personally think because the name value isn't there a la Bobby Wagner, whatever you were getting for Bobby Wagner, imagine around less than that for Demario Davis, which is unfortunate. But I love that call. Demario Davis is such a badass.
Cleveland Browns legend, Demario Davis too.
Holy crap, he had that. You're right. He had that one
season, but
you know what? It counts. It counts. No, I love it. All right, let's get to defensive backs. Under 30 crowd. I'm going to go with my Terp, Nick Cross, 24.4 years old. 120 total tackles last year, 6 quarterback hits, 5 TFLs, 5 PDs, 3 sacks, a pick, and a forced fumble. Played 551 box snaps. That is the most box snaps by a safety this past year, which is 49.5% of his total snaps. 2024, amazing. IDP purposes, scoring, amazing. Pick your format, doesn't matter. Just amazing. Tackle numbers were great, right? So then, what do the Colts do? They get rid of their defensive coordinator. They bring in Lou Anarumo from Cincinnati, formerly from Cincinnati at that time. Who the biggest thing from him, from a coaching perspective, is that he likes to utilize 3 safeties a lot, and so what are the chances that Nick Cross is going to be put in a position where he's still playing a lot of box snaps? And so that kind of scared a lot of managers away this year as far as expecting, top 10 production. And we found out that Anarumo was like, no, we're going to put you really, really good. And he definitely responded to that. Now a free agent. I hope Indianapolis brings him back, as it's one of those things where it's like, I'm so scared of Colts players that move on to other teams. Like for fantasy purposes, I loved EJ Speed. From a real football perspective, that's a different story. But I thought, hey, EJ Speed for fantasy, wherever he goes, he'll be fine. And then he lands in the Houston Texans, and there was
no market for him at all because of the football play.
Yes, exactly.
He is a lot. He's a case study, or he's a case study. He and Devin White are case studies for tackles do not equal a good football player.
This is very true. Very, very true. But you hope that wherever he lands, they utilize him where his strengths are at, which is helping closer to the line of scrimmage and not so much in coverage. And if he goes to the Colts, if he stays with the Colts, and you acquire him now before free agency starts, like you're loving life. Like you're like, all right, well, I got my safety, I got my defensive back locked in. I don't have to worry about what's going on. For me, do I want to acquire him now or after the draft? I'm a little scared about this, Mike. I'm going to be completely honest with you here, because I know where he's good. I don't know where he's going. Well, they'll keep using him the same way, and that's really a big concern for me. And we all know how defensive backs, they don't maintain consistency for fantasy from year to year to year. There's always a lot of variability as opposed to some other positions at the linebacker or defensive line positions. So I think I would wait to make a move until after I find out where he's going, as opposed to try and get out of the curve here, unlike some of the other players that we've mentioned today. What are your thoughts on that? Before or after free agency would you try to acquire him?
Well, I probably would try to, for me and my views totally on the defensive backs, I'm probably trying to sell him.
Okay.
So I'm probably trying to sell him before free agency.
Okay.
Because if he, because with safeties, I mean, what we want a guy who's going to play near the line of scrimmage. Well, if he plays if he lands on a team that may not necessarily totally utilize an exclusive box safety or one of those exclusive line of scrimmage safeties, which they are a little bit now, but if he lands on a team that, are using more too high and he's now playing away from the line of scrimmage a little bit more, kind of lowers the floor. So at almost 24 and a half, I'm probably trying to sell him right now. So I may not necessarily be trying to acquire, so I might be looking to sell just because of the nature of the DB position. And, if am I gonna get a first? Probably not, but if I can get a second round pick for Cross, and if he continues to produce like he does, oh well. But if I can take maybe one of those second rounders or maybe one of those third rounders, turn him into someone like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or a Dylan Thieneman, I'm liking the upside, and I'm liking kind of what I have there with one of those two guys.
Man, Thieneman just destroyed at the combine. That was so fun to watch. Just an amazing performance there for a prospect. All right, Mike, who is an older defensive back that jumps out to you that's a free safety that fantasy managers may want to look into for Dynasty?
So I think you got Kevin Byard. He's entering his 11th season. I think for the second time he enters free agency. He spent his first 7 years, I think, with Tennessee. Then he went to trade center to Philly. Then he goes to Chicago. 400 tackle campaigns for, kind of for a guy who kind of doesn't play near the line of scrimmage is impressive. 6 seasons though, with 4+ interceptions. He had 7 interceptions last year, the most since 2017. Been a decent actually source of tackles, 85+ in his last 8 seasons. Just kind of looking at some of his highlights, he can still track the ball. So I think he's going to fit in a team that's going to emphasize turning the ball over. I mean, he could land back with Chicago, but definitely would like to see him like I said, I'd like to see him land a team that emphasizes turning the ball over. Maybe someone like Minnesota. I think he'd fit in pretty well with a Brian Flores defense. Kevin Byard is going to be an interesting one to kind of see where he lands.
So my second defensive back that's under 30, I had it all queued up, and I'm torn because I wrote about one, but given what I've heard as far as the Bears not bringing back Tremaine Edmonds, I kind of want to switch, and instead of going from Cam Curl, who was going to be the guy I was going to talk about, I kind of want to talk about Jaquan Brisker. If they bring him back and they're getting rid of, which I thought was one of the biggest overpays at the linebacker position a couple seasons ago in free agency with Tremaine Edmonds, man, they're going to need Brisker to really come up and help play that box safety role, assuming they're not going to invest heavy draft capital at the linebacker position, which is fairly deep this year. I think I have to go with Jaquan Brisker. He just grades out really well. Had a down year in terms of tackles in 2024. This past year, we saw him, grade very well as a safety. In terms of free safety versus box safety, still high numbers, high snaps, but it's the fact that you're going to have I don't want to call it depleted linebacker core, but definitely a severely weakened one. That I believe that he's going to provide more value if he stays in Chicago in that scenario. Now, if he doesn't go to Chicago, then I'm going to flip to Cam Curl because, even playing more coverage snaps this year for the Rams, he was still a very productive, solid contributor. Not somebody that I'm going to be like, he's my DB1. Like, I'm not putting him ahead of Nick Cross. Like, Nick Cross, I would rather have over Cam Curl. But yeah, I'm going to go Jaquan Brisker here, especially if he re-signs with the Bears. What about you, Mike? Who's another defensive back who's a little bit older that IDP Dynasty managers should pay attention to?
Well, I think he's right on the cusp of being 30.
Okay, that works.
29.9 years, so I'm rounding up. And that's it's Kyle Duggar. I think he got a bit of a raw deal in New England.
Yeah,
I think Vrabel probably wanted to see some of the other guys with Hawkins and Woodson, so
yeah.
I think he ended up getting a raw deal. There was one game where they kind of showcased him and he showed he could still play, but he ends up in Pittsburgh after the trade. Ends up with a starting role, played 45% of his snaps near the line of scrimmage, 59 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 TFLs with Pittsburgh. Used a little bit more as a pass rusher. I think he had, he did have some pass rush snaps, 13 snaps, 6 pressures. So pretty efficient from that spot. I've always had kind of a soft spot for Duggar just because the college that he came from, and he's kind of been a physical guy. I've always liked the way he plays. So it'll be very interesting to see where Duggar plays or where Duggar lands. I think maybe re-signing with Pittsburgh might help. I think, like I said, with Byard, I think he would fit in well with Minnesota, maybe even Kansas City. I know I think a couple there. I know Cook is a free agent. I think Hicks is also kind of playing more of the deep role. So I think Duggar can kind of be a physical guy. So, but I've always liked the way Duggar plays. So yeah, I'll be interested to see where he lands.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, folks. Well, that's going to wrap us up for our NFL free agent dynasty talk here for IDP. Obviously, free agency is coming around the corner. Just because, maybe some of your players you're trying to acquire for your dynasty teams may not be free agents. There's certainly going to be news, whether it's trades or people being released and then becoming free agents. Let me ask you one in particular here. True or false, Mike? Max Crosby will not be a Raider this season. True statement, false statement. Your prediction.
I think I don't know. I think he's going to stay with the Raiders. I think he's going to remain with the Raiders. I don't know. I think he's just a gut saying he's going to stay with the Raiders.
So I am heavily biased because I have a Raiders Max Crosby jersey and I don't want to buy a new one. So I am with you. I hope he stays with the Las Vegas Raiders. Mike, before we get out of here, please tell everybody again where they can follow you, where they can follow your work, all that jazz.
Follow me on Twitter at Mike_Woellert, idpshow.com. That is where you'll be able to find my projections. And MikeWoellert.substack.com is where you can find a lot of my other stuff that I'm not writing about at IDP Show. You'll find it over there. Like I said, doing all the rookie valuations. Going to probably, like I said, start compiling some rankings. Still got to figure out what I want to do over the off season, but I don't know, maybe do some all 22 review. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, I'm putting something together and I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be worth my time, but at the same time, I want to try it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I got to tell you, the 2026 rookie class of defenders is actually a pretty good group of guys. So I think it's going to be a very get your guys type of draft. I think when you talk about rookie drafts, since talking about Dynasty, there's a lot of guys that if you like them, you know what, just draft them. I don't even think there's anybody that is going to be a consensus top pick. I don't see anybody being like, yeah, this is your number one guy. Where everybody's just going to have him at number one. So I think it's going to be rookie drafts are going to be very interesting. Cause like I said, I think it's going to be a very heavy get your guys type of draft. I'm probably going to be lower on a few guys that are probably going to go top 3, top 4. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Well, Mike, first of all, in terms of your project that you're not sure about, man, you better. Because I love reading your stuff, man. So you better put that stuff out because I know you have a lot of fun doing this stuff. You've been a staple in the IDP community for years. So if you don't, I'll be disappointed. So there you go. There's the guilt. There's the shame. As for me, you can check out my 2026 IDP Dynasty Targets Free Agency Edition article over at Fantasy and Frames. My first set of rookie rankings for IDP will go up this weekend. Be on the lookout for our IDP Dynasty Target Profile previews, as well as we're going to be going and talking about Dynasty value discounts at the linebacker, DL, and DB position that managers should be looking to acquire on the cheap, especially as we get closer to the NFL draft. Speaking of the NFL draft and our coverage here, talking about prospects leading up to the draft, Mike, you got to come back on before the NFL draft, man. We got to have you on doing.
Oh yeah, whenever. Happy to bring on. No, yeah, you tell me when and where, and I'll be there.
Love it. All right, folks. So that's going to do it for Shoot the Gap this week. Next week we will be back to having 2 episodes of Shoot the Gap per week leading up to the NFL draft. Whereas here on the Wednesday show, we'll talk about everything from the free agency to startups to prospects until the draft, and then we'll get into other content as soon as we have the NFL draft. But on our Tuesday show at 9 p.m., all rookie talk, all talk, different mock draft styles, different scoring formats, positional breakdowns per rookies. So that's going to be at 9 p.m. JT and myself and whoever else wants to jump on in the IDP community, present company included. You can check that out there. Next week, little programming note. We normally go on Shoot the Gap at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will continue to do so next week. But you can catch us on our Facebook channel and here on X as well. For those on our YouTube channel, we're going to be preempted because we have something very special here at Fantasy and Frames kicking off next Wednesday, which is the Fantasy and Frames Women's Best Ball Tournament. We're going to be covering that exclusively on our YouTube channel here at Fantasy and Frames. Stacey Perez and company are going to be basically taking you through the very first division's live best ball draft. So we should definitely have members of the Fantasy and Frames family coming on and giving their analysis right along with Stacey Perez, who's done a fantastic job organizing this and getting all these wonderful ladies who just have a passion for fantasy football joining us in the Fantasy and Frames Best Ball Tournament. So looking forward to that. That kicks off next Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on our YouTube channel. So come in, join the chat, talk shop. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just a great opportunity to celebrate women in the fantasy football space, given the fact also it is Women's History Month here in the month of March. So plenty of reasons. There are some spots available. Reach out to Stacy_Perez83, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We want to get you involved, ladies. We want to really promote the fact that, you want a place where you can make friends, talk shop, and have fun playing fantasy football and celebrate all the women in this space. Do it on our best ball tournament. Guarantee you're going to have a great time. So that's going to do it here for us on Shoot the Gap. So for Mike, I'm Jorge. We will see you all next Tuesday. Take care.